Alright. So controlling when a record loads is the topic which we are going to move ahead or carry forward or continue with this current lesson, which is reading raw data file. So to go ahead with this controlling when record loads, just a revision what we had done last time. We had learned about reading a raw file by formatted input method, and with the input statement there are various styles depending on your raw data structure. Hence that input style or that input statement, depending on the type or depending on the structure of your raw file, the data step is written. So here we got introduced with formatted input, where you people saw how you give in format instructions while reading the raw file. You also saw the method about how one can read a raw file which is standard data and which is with non-standard data. So standard data you can give simply your simple input method, which is your column input method. But in case the raw file consists of the unformatted data value, then or unstructured data value, you give the information with its in format. Correct? So recording when load. So before moving into it, in case now we have a raw file which is having data which is comma separated. All right. So what are comma separated values? So let me see if I have any here. Okay. Now look at this values. Now you have certain raw file here where you find that the values are having some special signs. See, which is separated by asterisk. Okay, apart from this, in case now we are going to have this data. Just a second. Let me open the data here. Separated values. So tab file, then this is a tab file. Oops. Simple Excel. This is a tab file. Okay. Now see, this is actually the data file which is in the form of CSV. Okay. It's showing you that it is a Microsoft Excel, but it is in the form of CSV. Okay. So this file is CSV file. See, comma separated value files. So it by default opens into Excel. But in case if you want to view or if you want to open it in Notepad. Okay. So let's see how it looks. So this is your raw file. Okay. If you see this, you have data values which are separated by comma. See? And if you observe this data file carefully, you will find there are standard data values as well as or non-standard data values. Okay. So why we call this as non-standard data values? It's because this values you will have to provide some special instructions to SAS to read those values, because there are certain things where SAS will not able to read it, hence it delimits SAS to read the values. So here you'll have to give some special instructions, whereas here there is no special instructions. Okay. So when you have this type of data values which are separated by comma, you can use your input style with as a list input method. Okay. So for example, now this is your sales data. Okay. So when I move ahead and I write certain data step now. Okay. So here do we have sales CSV. Okay. So if you observe this data carefully, you can see that this is the employee ID, this is suppose the first name, last name, and this is the gender, this is maybe the salary, this is the job title, this is the country, okay, from which this particular employee are residing. So if we just provide the instructions to read this type of or this only few values, okay, so what instructions will be given? So first and foremost is you are going to create a data. Let's create it as a temporary one itself. Of course, it's from the raw file. You have to provide its path. Hence, you have to provide the in file statement where you will be providing the path of your raw file. Correct? So you paste this input method. Okay, so now what is the first column? So first column is employee ID. All right, then the second column is first name. Okay, then you can write it as last name. Then you have it gender. Suppose you write gender. Now gender is character. Let us put dollar sign. Same goes for last name. It's a character. Put the dollar sign. All right. Employee ID is numeric. Leave it as it is. Then you have job title. All right. And job title is also character. Put it here like this, and you have country. Right. And simply run this. Let's see how it works. Look at the data value carefully, how it is reading. It's not able to read this employee ID. Look at this. Okay. So it's not taking the values correctly. Let's look into your log, which will give us the message. It's giving you the contents of PDV. And this type of message, when it comes, okay, where it gives you your input buffer contents, it gives you a note, invalid data errors, increase availability of buffer lines and all. So when this type of message you get into log, you have to understand that this is the data error. Okay, so it's a type of error. It's not your syntax error. Syntax error occurs when you have any syntax instruction which is incorrect as per the rules of your syntax in your coding. That time you get the syntax error which gives you in red color, and it just stops your step there itself. Okay, but this is the instructions where you have provided is incorrect as per your data value, hence it gives you the data error. So being a data error, it will not stop your data step. It will keep on processing until the end of your file, and it will give you haphazard results into your output data set. So you have to look into your log. So it's giving us the contents of your input buffer. So this is your input buffer. So when you watch or when you look into this carefully, it's telling you in the line number 3, that is at iteration number 3, when it is reading this lines, it's finding in your raw data file, the instructions are not matching as per what you have given in your data step, looking into your data. It's telling invalid data errors with this file in this path. Okay, then it's telling it's not able to read your employee ID. So this is the content of your PDB. So this is how it's moving ahead, and see the values it's reading along with the comma. So what is happening here is when SAS starts reading your data value, first and foremost, when it steps here, it is reading value, but which value should be taken for your employee ID, for your first name, for your last name, it's not having that instructions correctly. Because in our code, we simply provided the information that input employee ID, first name, last name, gender, job title, and country. So what happens here is SAS will keep on simply reading these values haphazardly without taking it appropriately as per your column instructions. Why it's happening? It's because the data values are separated with comma. Okay, and comma is a special sign. So because it's a special sign, when SAS comes and reads this value for your first, it's not having any instructions starting from where it should start reading your employee ID, where it should stop. So it's not understanding that this is the separator between the value. So it's delimiting SAS to read the values from which place to which place as per your column instructions. All right. Hence, this type of data values are also termed as delimited data values. Delimiters. So this comma is termed as delimiter. It delimits SAS. It stops SAS to read value what is beyond this. So it is having some hindrance in between where it's not having any special instructions what this comma is all about. So when you have a data value where you have some values which are separated with special values, you need to give instructions in your in file telling SAS that this in file is actually separated with a delimiter. And what is the delimiter? You can always provide that the delimiter is comma. So here you have comma, so give this instructions. Now let's see when you execute this data step. So look at here now. Got it? Of course, looking into your data, every column will have a default 8 bytes of space because we did not provide any length. So see, but look at here, it's still not reading it correctly. Gender is fine, but for job title, for country, it's not reading it correctly. It's maybe we might have not provided it. So we did not give any instructions that this is salary and this is job title and this is the country. So hence it's giving you the values that the job title is your salary and country is your sales or your job title value, which is for country. So let's go to your code and give an information that after your gender, you have a column called as salary, which is numeric. So let's now execute. So bring a numeric value. It also does not have any special signs. So simple numbers, so it should take your numeric values correctly. See now, it's reading the values appropriately without any hindrance. But of course, there are certain values which are truncated. So why it's truncated, you know, because by default, the column instructions which you have provided with input is not providing any length. The default length is going to be your 8 bytes. So this is how with simple delimiter instructions, SAS will able to read the value appropriately and give you the output. So this type of your input style along with your in file statement where you provide what is the delimiter in your raw file, this type of input style is called as list input method. All right. So apart from this now, in case you want to provide the length, let's move ahead and simply give the length. All right. So let's give your first name, last name, a common length. So you can provide it in this way. Let's give maximum 25 as a length and its character. So $25. Gender you can give 1. Okay. Then salary is fine. It's numeric. Job title you can give max as suppose 15. Country you give it as yes. All right. Employee ID we would suppose as it's good. Let's check. There is some syntax error. And for numeric, All right. Fine. So see now, let's check your job title, the length. See, it's 15. Your first name, last name, or common length, which is 25. See, now you'll find your values are not truncated. See now. All fine. I hope you are getting what I'm trying to show you. So this type of input is called as list input method. Fine. So this was one example. Now this data consists of asterisk sign. Okay, so when you have this type of data which have asterisk sign, so you can give the instructions telling its gender, then you can tell its age, and you can say its vaccine status are the columns. And in file you can give the delimiter is asterisk now. All fine? Are you getting it? What we are doing, everyone?
Yeah, but there is one comma also, so we have to give two.
Yeah. So this comma is yes. If you have this two delimiters, you can obviously you have to give there are two delimiters giving its comma and its asterisk. Okay. Yes. So your question is appropriately correct. So let me show you the instructions for this as well. So where do we have this here? Let me know if you could see it. There are so many files now in this folder. Was general. Yeah. All right, it was vaccine data, correct? So same thing. Yeah. So let me take this path. Let me give the instructions. All right, I'm creating this file. This is actually in this path. Let me tell first, let's give the delimiter here is asterisk. Okay, let's see how it works now. Then you can write input. First name is suppose first is gender. Let's give its input style here itself. Then you have age and you have vaccine status. All right, so it's a character. Let's put it with extra one here itself and let's check how it works. So it's not reading here. What is the data error? So what it's telling, invalid data for age. So it's not able to read this. Hence, in the first line itself, it's having error. So instead of giving your instructions in your input for your length and all, let's include your length statement. This way, because for numerate, you cannot have a width which is less than 4 bytes maybe. Let's execute. So now because of this delimiter comma also, it's not maybe able to read the value. So let's put it that you have two delimiters. So what must be happening here? Why it's not able to take vaccine status? Any idea? Yes. So there you do not get any type of message here about your data errors. So where somewhere your logic is missing. Yes. What do you think? Check the data.
Non-vaccinated is more than 10, right?
This is not. Done. So with your input, there was no instructions again to be provided once you give instructions with length. So input will simply read the columns as per your instructions, that what is the order to be read right from gender, then age, and then vaccine status. So this is what your data set is created. So when you see your vaccine, see it's a character type of column and its length is 15. All right, so age is numeric, length is 4. Gender is character, length is 1. So this is what you see the data file. Fine. See, with this comma and with this delimiter, it's able to read the values. So SAS will read from starting from left to right. So from delimiter to this delimiter, it takes the value. So from here, it starts reading from left till this delimiter. So it takes this as value as your gender. Then from this delimiter to this delimiter, it reads this value for age. Then from this delimiter till the end, it reads the value for your vaccine status. So this is how, when you give your delimited data values instructions to be read, the data values between the delimiters are taken as per your column instructions. All fine? Any doubts, any questions on this?
Can't we include the length also in the input?
So that's what it was giving us the haphazard result, because when we were providing the length with input, it was not able to read it properly. Hence, you have to provide a length statement separately, and input will just act as an instructions how to read the data value in which order from left to right. All right.
Okay.
So see, if you remember, I was giving it like this with input. And when I executed this data step, your results were not reading it with this proper length with input.
Length of the vaccine status can't be increased to 15 and check?
So I have done already in length.
No, in the input statement.
See, yeah, one sec. See, all right. So let's try that also. Here also it was 10. So let's increase it. Got it? So see, from age itself is not able to read the values up correctly. So when you have a list input method where you are giving your raw file, which is separated by delimiters, and when you give length and its column descriptions, no need of providing again the information about this length into your input statement, because your input is just an instructions here how to read the columns right from that, what value should be taken for first column, for this column, and for this column. That's it. Length is going to define your PDV with name, type, length, name, type, and length, and so on. So input will just, during your execution phase, it will ask SAS that gender is the value to be read from this delimiter to this delimiter, and you get the values. Got it now? Understood?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this was your one of the method which is we call it as list input method. So for your practice in your uh, data where you have all your raw files, just try to read your raw file called as sales CSV with input style method with a delimiter instruction. So use this data step. Go ahead. Please share your screen.
Okay, so this is the vaccine data.
Fine.
And
What's your code? Show me your code.
I think her vaccine data is
I know.
different from the one we had in the notepad.
There is no semicolon. Now it's there. See, you're not providing any type of one sec, Priyanka, one sec. You are not at all giving any instructions in your in-file statement telling your data is separated by delimiter.
Oh, right. Sorry. Well, I was just checking why I was not getting data. Yeah, I was still kind of
DLM equal
worried.
to and give what are the special signs which are separating your data values, which acts
Yeah.
as a delimiter.
Yeah, I wrote it before I put the in file, like develop the file. So that's why I was still working on it. But
So
I
please remove from your input statement the dollar and your length also. See, that's why it's not reading correctly, haphazardly. So remove in from your input statement. Yes, don't give this instructions in input. Once you have provided with length, no need of again provided with
yeah,
input.
checking that. Yeah, got it.
Understood? All right. Okay, so you can stop sharing the screen and let's start with our next or introduction to the slides. All right.
Ashwini,
So controlling, yes, tell me.
the fifth observation, why is not, it is not reading? In the
For
log,
for your screen, you're telling me?
yeah, like we have taken the raw data as per your data which you have
Okay,
pasted
just
in.
share your screen. Just just share your screen.
Okay. Are you seeing?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
So show
so
me your
this
output. Show me the output.
raw data. Okay.
Okay, so see, it's not reading it correctly. It's because you have some missing value in between your data. Okay, so when you have missing values in between your data, along with delimiter, come to your code. So it's just an extra point which I'm telling. Of course, we'll be covering up in our upcoming topic. But what you have to do is, before your semicolon after delimiter, you can also make use of an option called as DSD, or you can, simply write. But your data here is having asterisk. Okay, use DSD, no problem. Just try it out. Now execute this data step. It's telling that in between your data, you have delimiters, which is separated or which has missing value. See, so what DSD is telling, that data is separated with delimiters. So it indicates to SAS that within your data file, you have missing values where you have two concurrent DSD to be read. Okay. So what happens in this case, just give me the control of your screen, please. I'll explain you here. So in this case, when this raw file was been read, now this raw file which has been seen, it has a missing value at this fourth record, correct? So there are two delimiters which are read as a single delimiter by SAS. Are you getting it?
With the DSD?
No, without DSP.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So without DST, now everyone just pay attention here. When this was a simple instructions, so what was happening here is The fourth record, when it reads gender, when it comes to the second row or second value to be read, of course it's age which is missing. Okay, so it won't be able to read age. But what happens to vaccine, you know? So what happens here is, because in your instructions in file you have given it's having a delimiter as a missing value. So it treats two consecutive delimiters as one. We know that two delimiters in between there is a missing value, but SAS won't understand that there is a missing value. It just reads that it should read the value between delimiters to delimiter. Now here, this delimiter it treats as one because those are two consecutive delimiters. So it will not able to read this value, but what happens, it goes to the next line, and to fulfill the row to be read for the fourth line, this value is taken. Hence it's giving you the result in a way which is incorrect. So this line is the record coming from your next line. Okay, so when you look into log, it will give you a message also. So what message it gives you? That SAS went to a new line to fulfill the record and all. But see what it's telling you. In your fifth row, though it's reading the record in file, but it's not able to read the values as per your input instructions. Okay, and see it's telling, of course it's reading all the 5 records. At the same time, there is a note, SAS went to a new line when input statement reached past the end of the line. Why happens here? Because as per the instruction, or as per the process, when it reads this fourth line, okay, so when this fourth line is read into input buffer, but the instructions are incorrect as per this instructions, so it treats this two consecutive delimiter as one. Now because your age is numeric, but this value it treats as your age value, so it takes as missing. So as per SAS instructions in input, or in your input buffer, this fourth record is already read. So hence when it comes to the column which vaccine status has to be read, it tries to fill up this column, okay, by going to the next line. Then when it goes to the next line, your fifth record is loaded into your input buffer, but your instructions are incorrect. So your last value of your previous record, which was for the vaccine status, because it reads the next line immediately, this value is treated as vaccine value, and that is why it comes here like this. Hence, there was some instructions information incorrect at your iteration number 4, but SAS has read all the 4 records from your raw file. Hence, it's telling all the 4 records were read from the raw file. Data set was created, but at the same time, a note is also providing that SAS went to a new line to fulfill, or when it ends to the, or when it reaches to the end of your record. Why it happens? Because when it is in the iteration of your 4th cycle of your data step, this is treated as your age value. But for vaccine status, when it is ending the row to be read, it finds no value because this value was read as age, but it is incorrect. Hence, to fulfill the 5th column value, it moves to the next line and it takes this value to fulfill your 4th record value. Did you understand now why you are getting this result haphazardly?
Yes, yes.
Yes. And to overcome, when you have this type of data where you have missing values within your data values, in that case, you have to give instructions to SAS that there is a missing value in your data in between the records. Hence, include this DSD option. So DSD means your data is separated with a delimiter, or your data has delimiters which is occurring concurrently. So it will treat a delimiter between a delimiter as a single value, and hence now when you re-execute this data step, it will be able to read that between the delimiters, it will read one delimiter at a time. So from one delimiter to a next delimiter, it will read the value for age. So it will not read two delimiters consecutive as a single delimiter when you have this type of raw data values. Got it now? So it will not read two delimiters as a single. So it will read from left to delimiter this one value. So from one this delimiter to this delimiter second value, and from this delimiter till the end is your third value. Got it now?
Yes.
Okay. Others?
Yeah.
Shanmuga, Swarupa, Priyanka.
Yes.
All right. So can just stop sharing, Nilima. So let's move ahead with our slides.
So what is the full form of DSD?
It's data separated delimiters.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. So objective here is we'll read a raw data file with multiple records per observation. We'll read a raw data file with mixed record types, and we'll subset from a raw data file with mixed records. So now let's understand all these objectives to be learned here. So look at this raw file. So it's telling you have a scenario where you have to create a data set that contains the necessary information for the company's contact directory. So you have address data, which is into a raw file. It's a DAT file. So you'll find that for a single employee or for a single row, which has to be read into SAS dataset as a single row, you have multiple records into raw file. So this is the first name, you have address line 1, or you have address 1, address 2, and its pin code or phone number. So these are the 4 lines for a single record, which has to be read as a single line with columns into your SAS data file. So this is what is the next aim for us. But if you observe this, you have full name read, you have address 2, so this line is read, but this record we have skipped as per business requirement. Okay. So we do not want to read this record, but we want to read this as name, a third record, and the fourth record as this columns, where you get a single line by reading multiple records for a single person. Is the scenario clear? Is the raw file understandable?
So line
What
2
has
is
to be done? What has to be done from this raw file to a data set? Yes, Nilima.
line 2 has to be
Skip.
yeah.
We don't have to read that, but it should go to line 3 and take this as third column, second column as address 2. So there are 2 lines of addresses, okay, for that particular employee. So like for example, you may have house name and you may have street name, correct? So that house name comes on the first line and street name may be on the second line. So you don't want that house name, you simply want to have street name to be read. So that's what is this address 2. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. Others, Shanmuga,
Yes.
Swarupa, Priyanka. Okay.
Yes.
So this is our aim to be done. Okay. So let's see how one can read multiple records to create a single line, and how you can skip a specific record as well. So for this, we are going to use multiple input statements. So look at it carefully. Look at your data step carefully. Observe this, then I'll explain it. Just observe, read these lines, read this, and I'll explain.
So for the skipping line, we didn't give the filling attributes.
Absolutely. So what happens, by default, SAS loads a new record into input buffer when it hits your input statement during execution phase. Correct? Okay. So your new record is loaded only when SAS hits your input statement. Okay. So when you have multiple input statement in one data step, this is how you have to do. So first input, it will read your first record. With second input, it will load your input buffer with your second record, but it because there is null input statement. So what do you mean by null? That means you do not have any instructions with input, so that raw record will not be loaded into your PDB. Got it? Understood? So this is what happens. So understand. So during your compilation, you know what happens as per this data step with as per your input statements. Now look at here carefully. With this input during compilation, the column will be created for PDB. Now this is a null input statement, no column created. With your third input, your third column will be created with its attributes and along with this. So during execution, when in file is read, you know your raw data file is loaded with the record, correct? As when input is hit, that time only from raw data record, as per the instructions, it will read the values. Okay, so when it comes to next input, of course, your raw data or your raw data second record will be loaded in input buffer, but because there is no instructions with input statement further, your PDB will not be processed for this input, correct? Accordingly, when it hits your third input, it will read the third raw data record into input buffer. Because there is an instructions provided, your PDB will process it. Same goes with your fourth input. So this is how it's doing. Okay, so this is how you get the output of your new data file, okay, from your PDB. So this is what you see the information in log. So it is going to read all the records, but it will skip the records to be read wherever there is no instructions with your input statements. Hence, it's reading 48 records and your output data set will have only 12 observations. And this is what you see the output with full name, address to and phone. So see how it works. Same thing, instead of writing multiple inputs, you can give an alternate, which is a line pointer control called as /. So this / is like first input is required because it will load your input values. When it comes to this slash, it will go to the next line in your input statement, same like your null input statement, but this / is not having any further instructions. So it's like your null input statement. Whereas this / is your third input statement. But instead of writing input statement, you are minimizing your coding time. And this is a new development where you can give line pointer control with /. So this / acts like your third input. It is followed with your column instructions. So it will load your third line of your raw data file in input buffer. And because of this instructions during execution, your PDB will be processed. Now this is your fourth input statement, but here it is third line control. So it will go to the third record of your raw file, load it into input buffer, and as per this instructions, it will create your data with PDB. Same way, it's reading with your log, it gives the instructions, and you see the same output. Okay, so before moving into this, I'll show you this demo. So this is a demonstration with D02 and D03. This is with fourth chapter, demo 2, and this is demo 3. All right, so before moving this, let's understand your raw file. So what was your raw file? It's the raw file named as address, correct? So let us check this address, see. Let's move to that. Fine. So this is your raw data file. So this 4 lines is for one person. This next 4 line is for another person. This 4 lines are for another person. Okay, so like this, every line has 48 records, or there are 48 lines. So we are going to give instructions accordingly to read these values. So moving into your studio, let's check where your address.data file is, so that you have to provide the path from your studio. Here it is. So take its properties, take its path. So let's have this. So this has to be commented out. Why? Because you know it's a raw file. You have to provide the instructions as per your this information. All right, and I provide here like this. So same thing. Let's copy it here. So you have multiple inputs. Okay, execute this data step. You find your data is corrected. All right, fine. In case if you want to see the contents of your PDB, you know you can write putlog underscore all underscore and just check how this PDB contents works at the time when your execution phase has been processed. So looking into here, see this is the first record, second record, third record, fourth record. So it is going to read your values as per this columns. So see, because you have given full name, so this is the value. So see, it's skipping your address one. Okay, and you are getting the phone. In case I provide the instructions for this input, telling it is address 2, I tell the same thing, formatted input. Okay, I give it is having the same length as your address 1. So fine, let's check. Done. See, address 1, address 2, and at the end you will have its phone. Got it now? Because you had skipped earlier this instructions, it was just loading the record, but it was not creating any value for us. Are you getting it, everyone? So if you see your log as well, so now you have address 1 value read into PDB. Earlier, this address 1 value was not read because you had a null input statement. Understood? I hope
Yes.
I'm making some sense. It's the same code, but this code is now with multiple forward slash. So this forward slash is a null statement, whereas this forward slash acts as your third line of input, whereas this forward slash is your fourth line of input. So I can give it in this way. That's it. So this first input is obviously required. This input ends here with this semicolon, and it's a part of this input. So when I execute this, it's giving me the same result as I had with multiple input statement. See, there's no error, there is no error message. So it's reading it correctly, telling 48 records were read, and a new data set was created with 12 rows or 12 observations, data statement used, and a data set created. Fine. Earlier with this input, now how many records it was reading? 48. So total how many rows? The same thing it's telling. Why? Because this 48 is creating 12 rows or 12 observations for your data file. All right. Any doubts, any questions in this? Yes,
Understood, Ashwin.
No
great.
question.
So you can open this demos and you can work out. So it is demo D02 for lesson 4 and lesson 4 D03. Go ahead. This is like a null statement. Share your screen where you are not getting any line for address one. Okay. Again.
What mistake I did?
Formatting 25
Dot here.
Yeah, period is required because it's an in format which you are providing, right? So
Yeah.
it's formatted
Okay.
input style. Got it?
Now I got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Priyanka,
Yeah.
Swarupa,
Yeah, I'm done.
great. Any doubts, any questions?
No.
No? Okay. So this was about line pointer control. Now there is a short poll. So it's like just looking into this, answer this, no need of using pen and paper. So they're telling write an input statement to read the data from the raw file below. This is your raw file and this is the layout. So they are telling column 1 to 5, it should be supply code. So this is line 1, where from here to here it's supply code. Whereas from 6th column to 25th column, you can take this as supplier name. Okay, so this. Whereas line 2 they have described is shipping date, which is from this to date. Amount is from 10th to 18th column. So how you'll give this input instruction? Supply code and supplier name contain character values. Remember this. So you have to write input statements for this raw file. So how will you give it? You can just simply speak out.
We can give formatted input.
Yeah, correct. But there are two lines, correct, for one supplier. So
We
how
can
will give instructions? Yeah.
line pointer also.
Yes, absolutely. So you can write your data, give the data set name, in file the path. First input you can provide telling it's the supplier code, right? So the supplier code is numeric. So you can simply write 5 dot. Then you can write supplier name, which is from 6 to 5 or 25. So you can directly tell what is the, but it's not, yeah, you can tell what column it's starting and ending. Okay, so either which ways you give column input or you give your formatted input method. So this is how it's telling, see, $20 dot. So this is your first input. Either you give line pointer control and give your second input telling it's starting at the rate first column. This is the ship date. This is the month. Starting rate at the rate 10th column. This is the amount and this is its informant. So there are other ways to write your input statement correctly as well. Understood?
Ashwini,
Yeah.
can you go one slide back, like one slide up?
Yeah.
Why is the supplier code in oh, because there is 58, but there are RFG. No. Why is the supplier code in $sign? Isn't it numeric?
No, this is numeric. This is numeric. This is numeric.
in
Here
the
you don't
code.
have dollar. This is the amount here. This
No,
amount.
no. In the next one, like in the code.
It's dollar. They're taking it as character.
Oh,
That's it. It's in format. Taking as character and its width, starting from first column. Understood?
why is it taking it as character? Isn't it numeric?
It depends what either you want to read as character and numeric, either which ways, but with supplier code or ID code or any of your numeric value, which is a code, either it's an employee ID or a person code, even if it is a code, either you
It
say
will
with
take.
character or numeric, you are not going to use it any which ways for any calculations.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Sometimes what happens, codes are numbers, but you may have some alphabets coming up in future. So it's better to keep it as character.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So this was just a poll for us. Now let's come to a next scenario. Now this scenario is read top sales data. So it's telling you have to read this table. Okay. So it's telling create this data set reading from a raw file that contains records for 2 different countries. And look at the values carefully, the dates and the amount. Depending on the country, the dates values are in different format and the amounts are in different format. I hope you are understanding this raw file. And from this, you have to create an appropriate SAS dataset where your dates are in the form of number of days and amounts are written appropriately. Wherever there is European data, this date is in the format of date 9 dot, whereas your amount is having a comma sign at the decimal place. Whereas for US, look at the date format and its amount. So depending on the country code, your dates and amounts are changing. So just observe this carefully, this slide, and then we can move ahead.
So for all USA, it is one format. For all Europe, it is one format.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move ahead. So this is what the expected result is, a common observation for your dates and amounts in a SAS dataset named as sales quarter 1. So look at here now. So when you have the raw file with mixed records, let's see in general, when you're writing this type of data step, how it works. Okay. So look at it. You are starting giving the instructions in data step, in file, input, sale ID, okay, location. You give a condition. Why? Because depending on your country value itself, your dates are changing. So see, if location is USA, then it should put your input, which is at 10th column for sale date. For USA, it's MMDDYY date in format, whereas for amount is 7 dot. Else, if its location is Europe, then Location means it's a column, okay, where you're creating it. Okay. So input should go sale date as date 9 dot, amount as comma x 7 dot. Fine. So this is at first attempt, you start typing your code. And you may execute this code also. All right. So let's check how it works. So it's a data called sales dat. Okay. So let's move into your studio. Put into your all right. So I'm executing this data step to check out what has happened. See, first row is coming like this. No values read, no values read, no values read. Overall, it has 5 records in the raw file, but ultimately you get 3 rows. So let's check your log. So this was your instructions. So it's telling invalid data for date, invalid data for amount. So it's reading your, when it's coming to your second row, okay, where it is uploaded in input buffer. Now you know this is your input buffer. So this 2 indicates it's the second row from your raw data. You know what this is? This is the contents of your PDV. So when your second raw data record was loading, it's telling its sale ID, its location is USA. Okay. But when you're telling that the location value is USA, okay, your PDV or your PDV is taking location as USA, but your raw data file is showing you the value which is for Europe. And hence the instructions which you have provided to read the sale for USA, which was in the form of MMDDYY, this date is not in that format. Hence, it's not able to read the date. Same goes with your amount. Hence, it's the error at your iteration 1 itself. Because if you check this raw data file, which is your sale dat, so let's check where is this raw file here, sale dat. Okay. Okay. So it's reading your first record, fine, but your information according to your instructions. Okay, you're telling first input, it's loading the record. Okay, if it's location, then input. Understand, it's the condition. If it's location of USA, then input. So when it is then input, but look at your log, it's showing you the content of your input buffer where it is recorded or it is loaded your second line, but it is still iteration number 1. So what is happening? Any idea what is happening? Any idea what is happening? Just think. Even if you are not able to come to that point, it's all fine. I'm there to explain. But just think what must be happening and how SAS might be behaving here.
Ashwini, show that data.
Did it read the first line as just the first 2 parts? Because the third and fourth part was not given when we said input. Maybe.
All right.
Because we said input, first we gave it an input, right? Like input,
Right.
sale ID
Yes.
and country code. And then we ended that line there. And then we started if location.
Right.
So,
This was your instructions. Yes. Yeah, you're very pretty close.
so
And you are correct.
it read the first line and it ended there. And then when it started again, it started the whole rotation again from line number 2.
Okay. Okay. Absolutely correct. A good attempt. Actually, what happens, as in our previous topic, we saw that whenever there is multiple input statement, SAS always loads your input buffer with new record or goes to new record. So what is your instructions? First input, your input buffer is loaded with first line. Okay. You have an instruction telling if location is USA, then input. So because of your concurrent another input statement, it again loads your second record. But it does not have any information telling that your first record has still to be processed. We are not giving that instruction. But because there is another input, it loads your input buffer with the second record. Okay. And as per this instructions, it start reading your second record. But this instruction is when your USA or your location is USA. So this was true when it loaded the first line. But because of your input, when it comes to the second record at this point, the instructions for your sale date MMDDYY of in format is not matching as per your raw data value. Hence, it's not able to read the value. Same goes with this value is not correct for amount as per this instructions. Hence, it's a data error. Therefore, it's telling invalid data for sale date in line number so much and so much with column. And same goes when it comes to the third iteration, when it's loading your sixth record. So according to SAS, it's reading all the 6 records, but the output which is created only for 3 rows and which is not correct. Understood what has happened here now? Okay. So let's see on your slides also how it's working. So see what happens. So with your first attempt of data step, we know during your execution phase or before your execution, you know, you have a compilation phase with input buffer and as per your input instructions, your PDV is created. So during execution, you know, it's a raw data to be read. So your PDV will get initialized to missing. With infile, it locates the path. With input, it will load the record from your raw data file into input buffer. See, when it hits input, the first raw data record is loaded into input buffer. So as per your input instructions, sale ID $4 dot. Okay, so till this 4 places, it will read the value for sale ID. At the rate 6th column, you have location to be read with $3 dot. So 3 places, 3 values into location. Now, ideally, it should go ahead to read these values, correct? But see what is happening. You are giving this condition if location is USA. So currently in your raw data record, the record which is loaded into input buffer, is this condition true? Yes, it's true. Then it should move ahead and read these values, correct? But because this is true, what is your instructions? Then input. So see what happens immediately. When it hits input, it loads your record in your input buffer, the second record. And what is your instruction? At the rate 10th column, sale ID should be read as MMDDYY. But what is your values in your input buffer? Is this in this format? It's into date 9 format. So this is not matching these values. So immediately SAS writes the message to log telling invalid data message. Okay. Same goes for amount. And because this condition now, it has already read with USA, so it will skip this with run, implicit output, implicit return. And this is how it will continue until the end of your file. Getting it now, how it's working? Understood, everyone?
Yes.
Yes. So because now how or what instructions as a data analyst you should tell SAS that when this condition was read, where you had this first record loaded in PDV or your input buffer, you should give certain instructions that SAS should keep holding this whole record in your input buffer until it finish reading this instructions for this next line. Okay, so you have to give certain information to SAS that it should hold this record in your buffer. It should not move immediately to the next record when it encounters the next input. Okay, so what is that? So that is what now you'll get introduced to a concept called as single trailing. Okay, so this is what unexpected result comes, which you have already explained in your log. So this is what, when you have mixed record types, you need to correct your program by giving a special instructions in your in file statement, telling it's a single trailing, your first input statement, your single trailing, so that it holds the record till the end of your values, or holds that whole values in your input buffer until it reads that record till its end. It's called as single trailing. So a single trailing holds a raw data record in the input buffer until SAS does the following: executes an input statement with no single trailing, begins the next iteration of your data step. So you write this into your input statement as single trailing. So how it works? Now the same thing, your first record is loaded in your input buffer. So with first input, it is reading your instructions as per it into your PDV. Now understand carefully, this input is having single trailing. That means it will hold this record until the end of this record and with your further instructions. So look at here. So do not read new record at the end of the statement. It holds your record in your input buffer. So with this instructions is true, then input. So with this input now, it is not going to load your input buffer with new record because of this single trailing it's holding this record. So at the rate 10th column, sale, date and amount is loaded in PDV appropriately. Now because this condition is false, it will skip this and with run implicit output, implicit written, and accordingly it will go ahead till the end of your file is reached. And this is what you see, all the 6 records in your output. Understood? Any questions here? Yes. So with this, I come back to my program. I ask SAS to hold the record when it's loading the record at the first input itself with single trailing, and I execute this data step. So when I execute this data step, it will process it appropriately and give me the correct output. So now if you want, you can write your proc print with format your date values to be read in a specific date, or your amount either in proc print or in your data step itself. You can write a format statement where you will have a permanent format applied. All right. So this is how the process works. So if you want, you can try this. I'll give you this code as well. But see to it, do not copy paste the path as what I have. So try without a single trailing and try with a single trailing. So change the path in your in file appropriately. Yes, Sharmuga, he was asking you something.
No, now
I was asking.
Yeah, Priyanka, tell me.
So in this case, if we want the formatting also in 2 different versions, like if it is USA, so when we proc print it and we want the USA format to be as USA and Europe one to be as Europe. So in proc print also we'll have to give it like differently.
But remember the column is same. So you
Yeah.
cannot use in proc print. You cannot give if condition in proc print, right? Print is what? It just shows you whatever is your data in your output. So you have to give accordingly in your data step. So in case you can write this data step telling after the data is read, you want to apply a format, correct? So how you will do it? And how you will do it? So you can tell that if location is the value is USA. Then you can say apply a format. It has a statement, apply a format for your location as suppose MMDDYY10 dot. Else format. I don't know whether it works, but let's check.
And
And absolutely,
Hmm.
I forgot it.
we can also give amount format also in the same line.
Yes, you can give it in the same. Your amount you can give for say as $1.2. You know there are only two country types, so I'm not specifying else when it is country location is Europe or something. Formats. What happened? It's not applied. So it's not taking. We have something. MMDDYY10 dot was not found or could not be loaded. What happened? Oh, we are giving a different column name. See, dates it should be.
All right.
See, got it? But everywhere it's taking the same date 9 dot. So what happened? This condition is not working. So it's working on the last condition. It's not working on this condition. This work, let's check. No, it's not understanding that format. See, as it is, it's not showing it in a highlighted blue color. That's
think
why I
we have-
used Dendo. That's why I used Dendo.
Yeah.
So you can always think how we can do this. It's one of your brainstorming activity. All right. So this was all about your profile. Okay. Now the scenario here is you want to just read the data for European observations. So how you'll do the changes in your data step where you don't want to read USA data, you just want to read Europe data. So tell me how you can move ahead with the same raw file, with the same data step. Just you want to read Europe data.
Line
Either-
pointer, blank
Yes.
null line pointers.
No, there is nothing of end pointers of null. Just think of your condition statement.
We can just, actually, we don't want at all data, right? So we'll
We
have to
don't want USA data. We
we
just
will have
want European data.
put the if condition before to read it, I think.
Yes. Okay, good. Shanmuga, Swarupa. Today,
Subsetting,
Swarupa, I'm not able to hear or you are not giving any inputs.
subsetting if I think, since it is only Europe.
Okay, absolutely correct. Both of you are correct. Priyanka also and Nilima also. Any inputs from Shanmuga and Swarupa? Yes. So this is how it is. So you write everything and you give at the end subsetting if statement, or either which ways what you can do is you can write this syntax of your European data and you can exclude US information. So this is what it's telling. So your subsetting if statement would appear as early in your data step but not in at the below. So this will not work. Okay. So in that case, what you have to do is you will have to give generally the most efficient place to put your subsetting if statement is as soon as all the variables are needed to evaluate the condition as assigned value. Just give it as early as possible so that it will skip or the condition to be there for US. That's it. You can open this demo D07 and work on it. Done?
Yes.
Post this, you have an exercise. And that will be the end of your lesson. So let's have a discussion on the exercise and we can start. So it's on the page starting the exercise level 1 for this 4-44. So it's reading multiple input records per observation. So it's a raw file called sales2, which has the information about Australian and USA sales staff. Information for each employee is in 3 lines of your raw data record. So record layouts are shown below. So these are the first 3 lines. This is the first 3 columns in first line. And these are the next columns in line 2. And then post that you have records in line 3. But they have asked you to read only this highlighted areas. So it's telling create a new data set called sales staff pool that contains the fields indicated by arrows in the table layout, and the output should come like this with appropriate title. So you are reading employee ID, last name, job title, hire date, and salary. So this exercise is on page 4-42. Level 1, exercise number 4. So let's move ahead. Coming to this, they're asking us to create a data. So I'll be creating this data set, even you can work on it with me simultaneously. I'm on mute. All right. So this is your line pointer control, and this is the code which is with multiple input statement. Done? All right. So I'll be giving you this code as well. And check this. So I've given both. One is the line pointer control and one is with multiple input. All fine. And this is your prop print. All right. So with this, we'll stop our day. So there is a 2 self-studies area for you. Upcoming exercise number level 2 and level 3 as well. And of course, with one more area where in case you want to format your data values as per your different formats depending on your locations. All right. Yes. See, I'm doing some changes here like this. Let's not use this here. Let's check. Your data as per your country. Try to apply formats accordingly. So I give this code into your chat box as well. So try this. So you have 2 self-studies. One is as per your country values, you have to apply the format for your dates. And of course, the second is about your exercises with level 2 and challenge. All right, everyone. Yes, people, can I have some response?
Yes.
Yes, Ashwini, we need to work it out.
Yes. So I've given you the code in the chat box. You can check it accordingly.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Shanmuga, Priyanka.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
We can stop for the day. Wish you a good day ahead. Ashura, wait. Let me know.
This formatting, what is the point of giving in the last line? We have already given it in the input statement.
No, that was in format. Yo. This is in format. We are asking it how to read. Whereas
Yes.
here we want to apply a format to be displayed in different form.
Yeah, understood. Okay.
Understood? So I
Yes,
just, instead of writing another if then else, because we are already writing this if conditions, why don't we use this format after reading, apply this format. After reading, apply this format. So I tried this, but it's still giving me the format, ultimately the last formats. It's not giving me the format as per my location. So how will overcome this? So that would be a self-study.
What is the question? Can you repeat?
It's like I was telling, as per this data, now when I created this data set, my USA values should come as MMDDYY to be displayed in my data. And of course, for Europe, I want to apply a different format. So accordingly, I apply the format. But ultimately, even if it's USA or Europe, it's taking the date9 dot format itself. It's not working with the format that I want for USA. It should apply this format. It is applying date9 dot. Are you getting it? Same goes with amounts.
So why is it
Yes.
not taking the format?
That's what I'm telling you. You have to work out, find it out. You read some extra documents from your helpline and let me know how you can come out with this solution.
Okay.
So that's why I gave you this code in the chat box. Work it out whenever you get time. Okay? And check how you will apply the format differently as per the different locations. Yeah, Priyanka, tell me.
No. I was saying you are giving the new one also, the one which you made smaller by using same line for. Like you're giving this one also in the chat box.
I've given all the codes. So this is the current code in your chat box which I have given, and before it, I have given you the exercise code as well.
Yeah.
I've given all the codes on the chat box. Shanmuga, Swarupa,
Yes, Ashwini.
yeah, I hope you will follow what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes.
Swarupa,
Yeah, Ashwini.
I hope you had also followed what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah. Just one question. The last demo, right? The code is working. The
Yeah,
employee.
this one, exercise.
Yeah, exercise. The first
This
one.
one, yes, this is also working and this is also working. I
The
have
first.
used line pointer control. See,
Okay.
so it's reading data for me. So I'm getting the result as well. So see, 165 rows, 5 columns. Okay, here it's giving me something. Let me check why.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
No, earlier I did not get this message. So let me check. So fifth row, it's moving ahead. Why? Line pointer control. This is the comment. So I remove this comment. I hope it works. What happened? After it, one job title. This is also correct. What's wrong? Semicolon is there and is there. It should work. It was coming, for me earlier because the rows I could see. What's happened? Temporary 6 dot is all fine. It's going to the next line. Where is 6 dot. Last is 21 eating dots. Job title. Oh, this is something where in job title it got. The column is misplaced here by writing. It should be 43. Now it will come. Now it will come. So while copying, something had changed. So the column pointer for your job title should have placed correctly. Okay, the same. So after it, second. Sorry, this liner is to be put on salary country, hire date. It got deleted in between when I copied this. That's why it's showing like this. Okay, so something got copying and pasting this place. Job title, salary country. Here it was. So Why it was coming correct from here. Let's check what's wrong. So what is the sales to data? Let's check in your raw file. It's on next lines. And then DB YY 10 dot $8 dot job title. So you can check this later.
After salary, one more null line point.
Absolutely correct, because we are not going to read your third line. So yes, you have to provide the null line pointer control. Absolutely correct, Nilima. Yes. Correct. So you can take this as a new code. So I'll just give you this, because you are not going to read your third row or third lines. You have to give a null pointer control. That's it. Absolutely correct. All right. The same thing, you can try it out with multiple inputs.
So here also the last input should be.
Yes, it should be a null input statement. Absolutely correct. Correct. All right, so I'll give you this as well.
Extra semicolon is there, I think.
Semicolon is either which way is the end of your statement, so that will not affect. All right. So self-study is conditionally you need to format your data values and of course complete your remaining level exercises. So should we stop for the day?
Yeah.
Swarupa, Shanmuga, Nilima, any doubts, any questions?
No, Shrini.
Unless we work it out, I can't say.
Yes, that it will be always coming up, no problem. So you can work it out, let me know. Okay, in our next class, we can discuss it and then we can move ahead. Swarupa,
Yeah.
I hope it's all good now.
It is working now. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so let's stop our day and meet on to our next class with the same time. Have a good night, take care, and thanks for attending the class. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.